The assessment. The vast chamber of the collective strategic assembly hummed with an underlying tension as billions of data points swirled in the holographic display at its center. First speaker Nyxera, her crystalline form refracting the light from countless stars, studied the projection of a blue-green planet with growing concern. The collective's most advanced predictive AI had never been wrong in its 10,000 years of operation, and its latest analysis was troubling. The data is unambiguous. She addressed the assembly, her voice resonating through the neural network that connected the gathered representatives. Species designation human will achieve full quantum mastery within 97 standard cycles. Their rate of technological advancement exceeds all known patterns. Second speaker Zolrath, a being of pure energy contained within an ancient warframe, pulsed with agitation. The simulations show a 98% probability that they will reject collective guidance once they achieve deep space capability. Their historical patterns indicate a strong resistance to external control. The holographic display shifted, showing centuries of human conflict, innovation, and adaptation compressed into moments. Wars that should have destroyed them only made them stronger. Disasters that should have broken their spirit only fueled their determination. The collective has never failed to integrate a pre-space species. Third speaker Miraven added, her insectoid mandibles clicking thoughtfully. But these humans, they demonstrate concerning traits. Their fiction, their entertainment. They've been imagining and preparing for extraterrestrial contact for centuries. They've spent more time thinking about how to resist us than species 10 times their age. The assembly watched as the AI projected potential futures. In every scenario where humans were left to develop independently, they became a force that altered the very fabric of galactic society. Their innovations, their unpredictability, their sheer determination to survive and thrive. It all pointed to a future where the collective's careful balance of power would be irreversibly disrupted. We have two options, Nyxera stated, her crystalline form pulsing with grave purpose. We can wait until they reach the stars on their own terms, or we can implement Integration Protocol 7 immediately, a full cultural and technological suppression, disguised as a benevolent uplift. The vote was swift and nearly unanimous. Earth would be integrated into the collective before it could become a threat. The most sophisticated invasion force ever assembled began to mobilize. Ships that could bend space itself, weapons that could rewrite matter at the quantum level, beings that had mastered the fundamental forces of the universe. They expected resistance. They were prepared for humanity's primitive nuclear weapons, for their crude projectile firearms, for their limited planetary defenses. The invasion force was designed to be overwhelming, to demonstrate such technological superiority that resistance would be pointless. When the collected ships appeared in Earth's skies, blocking out the sun over every major city simultaneously, they broadcast their message in all human languages. We come to elevate you, to give you the stars. Resistance will only delay your ascension. And then something unprecedented happened. Something that sent ripples of unease through the collective's carefully constructed plans. Earth's governments surrendered. Immediately, completely, without a single shot fired. Military bases stood down. Weapons were surrendered. World leaders appeared on global broadcasts, welcoming their new mentors from the stars. Humans filed orderly into registration centers, accepting their new roles in the collective's grand design with seemingly perfect compliance. It is done, Zolrath announced to the assembly, though his energy form flickered with an emotion rarely felt among the collective's leadership. Uncertainty. Earth is ours. But first speaker Nyxera, who had overseen the integration of 17 species across 12,000 years, felt something she had never experienced before. As she watched the humans accept their chains with quiet smiles and downcast eyes, her crystalline form resonated with an ancient emotion. Fear. Because in all the collective's vast history, in all their countless conquests and integrations, no species had ever submitted so easily. No civilization had ever accepted their own subjugation with such perfect, absolute compliance. and that was terrifying. In the privacy of her meditation chamber, Nixera reviewed the historical data again and again. She watched humans face extinction-level events with stubborn defiance. She saw them fight wars of annihilation with unbreakable spirit. She observed their stories, their myths, their legends, all filled with themes of resistance, of fighting against impossible odds, of never surrendering even in the face of absolute defeat. Yet they had surrendered to the collective without a fight. As the integration forces began their work on Earth's surface, as humans quietly accepted their new roles, as everything proceeded with suspicious perfection, Nixera came to a troubling conclusion. Either everything they had learned about humanity was wrong, or this wasn't surrender at all. It was something else entirely. And by the time they figured out what that something was, it might be too late. The vanishing. Integration Overseer Telnrai stood at the window of his command center in what had once been New York City, his biomechanical eyes scanning the orderly lines of humans moving through the streets below. After 3 lunar cycles of occupation, everything was proceeding according to protocol, yet something felt wrong. The feeling had started with small things. Integration centers reporting slightly fewer humans than their initial scans had indicated. Surveillance drones experiencing momentary glitches in supposedly random locations. Security personnel describing an unsettling sensation of being watched, even in empty rooms. Another report from Shanghai Division. His assistant, Vexlin, announced, her holographic form flickering with concern. 3 more oversight units have gone offline. No signs of violence, no alerts triggered. They simply stopped responding. Telnrai's metallic fingers tapped against the window's force field. How many does that make this cycle? 47 units worldwide. 212 personnel. Vexlin's form rippled with unease. Sir, there's something else. The human productivity numbers. They're exactly what we predicted. Telnrai finished. Precisely what we predicted, down to the decimal point. Too perfect, Vexlin agreed. Telnrai turned from the window, his synthetic skin tight with tension. The humans worked in their assigned roles with mechanical efficiency. They answered questions with perfect politeness. They followed every instruction without complaint. And that was the problem. The collective's predictive models were good, but nothing was ever this perfect. There should be variations, minor acts of defiance, the occasional surge of human emotion. Instead, they had compliance so complete it felt choreographed. Show me the latest disappearance site, he ordered. The air filled with a holographic recreation of a standard oversight station in Shanghai. Everything appeared normal, clean, organized, efficient. The 3 collective officers had been at their posts, monitoring human workers in a nearby quantum assembly plant. Then, between one surveillance sweep and the next, empty chairs. No signs of struggle. No forced entries. No energy signatures. Nothing. Play it again. Telnrai commanded. Slower. Show me the humans in the area. The scene replayed. Humans moved through their tasks with perfect, measured movements. Their faces showed appropriate deference. Their actions demonstrated ideal compliance. Then the officers vanished, and nothing changed. The humans continued their work as if nothing had happened, as if they hadn't even noticed. Sir, Vexlin's voice carried an edge of fear. I've been analyzing the behavioral patterns of the humans near these incidents. They're too consistent, like they're performing for us. Telnrai felt an unfamiliar sensation crawling through his cybernetic nervous system. The humans weren't just working. They were putting on a show. Every movement, every expression, every reaction was calculated to present an image of perfect submission. But beneath that performance, a message flashed across his neural interface. Another oversight unit had gone silent, this time in Lagos. As he processed the report, the lights in his command center flickered, just for a moment, just long enough to be noticeable. When they stabilized, Vexlin's holographic form had changed. Instead of her usual smooth projection, her image was fragmented, glitching. And in those glitches, just for a fraction of a second, Telnrai saw something else. A human face, smiling. "Vexlin?" he asked, his voice carrying a tremor he couldn't control. The hologram stabilized, returned to normal. "Yes, sir." "How long have you been my assistant?" "Since the integration began, sir. 3 lunar cycles, 4 days, 17 hours. Her response was perfect, precise. Too precise. "And before that?" A pause. A flicker. "I'm afraid I don't understand the question, sir." Telnrai's cybernetic heart began to race, because he suddenly realized he couldn't remember either. He couldn't remember when Vexlin had been assigned to him. Couldn't remember their first meeting. Couldn't remember. The lights flickered again. In the streets below, humans continued their perfect performance, moving through their assigned tasks with flawless precision. But now he saw it differently. They weren't submitting to the collective's control. They were maintaining a facade, a carefully constructed illusion of compliance that had become a weapon more effective than any resistance. Somewhere in the darkness beyond the flickering lights, humanity was moving. Not with the mechanical precision of their public performance, but with the practiced silence of predators who had spent millennia imagining this very scenario. The collective had expected resistance. They had prepared for violence, for rebellion, for the chaos of human warfare. Instead, they got compliance so perfect it blinded them to the truth. Every moment of submission was calculated. Every act of compliance was camouflage. And every disappearance was just another crack in the foundation of their control. As Telnrai stood in his command center, watching the pieces fall into place, he finally understood what true fear felt like. Because humanity hadn't surrendered at all. They had simply changed the rules of engagement. And the collective, for all its power, for all its technology, for all its careful planning, had never seen it coming. They were already losing a war they didn't even know they were fighting. The underground. In the deepest level of an abandoned subway tunnel beneath Berlin, Dr. Sarah Chen watched streams of data flow across salvaged alien displays. The screens cast a pale blue glow across a chamber that shouldn't exist, a hybrid of human ingenuity and stolen collective technology. Here, far below the carefully monitored streets where humans played their roles in the occupation's theater, humanity's true response to invasion took shape. Status report. She spoke softly into a quantum-encrypted communicator. The device, reverse-engineered from collective tech within days of the invasion, connected her to similar chambers hidden beneath cities worldwide. London reporting. 3 more oversight units successfully extracted. Their neural patterns have been added to the mimic network. Mumbai confirmed. Surveillance grid compromised in sectors 7 through 13. They're seeing what we want them to see. Sydney Online. Project Echo is ahead of schedule. The collective's AI now accepts our behavioral data without question. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. The aliens had expected resistance. Bullets, bombs, chaos, and death. Instead, humanity had given them a masterpiece of misdirection. While their overlords watched humans perform perfect submission on the surface, the real work happened in shadows and silence. The invasion fleet's first mistake had been broadcasting their intentions in every human language. It had given Earth's defenders precious hours to implement contingency plans that had existed for decades. Plans born from countless stories, movies, and games about alien invasion. Humanity had been preparing for this moment not with weapons, but with imagination. When the collected ships darkened the skies, they encountered no military resistance because Earth's armed forces were already going dark, dispersing into pre-prepared positions, integrating into civilian population centers. The immediate surrender of world governments wasn't capitulation, it was camouflage. Dr. Chen, a new voice crackled through the quantum comm. Anomaly detected in the Montreal hub. Possible surveillance breach. Sarah's fingers flew across the alien interface. Show me. The data streams shifted, showing her a section of Montreal's underground network where resistance operators had been extracting collective overseers. A pattern in the surveillance grid suggested their activities might have been noticed. "Initiate Protocol Omega," she commanded. Full theater performance. Within minutes, the Montreal team had triggered their contingency. Above ground, thousands of humans suddenly engaged in spontaneous but completely harmless activities. Street celebrations, impromptu gatherings, minor traffic disruptions, all carefully calculated to draw collective attention away from the real operation. The aliens had given humanity access to their technology, expecting gratitude and submission. Instead, each piece of collective tech became a window into their systems, their methods, their weaknesses. Humans learned to mimic their communications, clone their security protocols, and most importantly, understand their psychology. Sarah turned to a different display, this one showing the status of Project Echo, humanity's greatest weapon against the collective. Not a bomb or a virus, but an elaborate psychological operation designed to exploit their deepest fears. The collective believed themselves to be humanity's saviors, bringing enlightenment to a primitive species. That belief made them vulnerable, because when you believe you're the superior being, you don't look for sophistication in the resistance. You expect crude violence, not subtle manipulation. New York Hub reporting. Another voice emerged from the quantum comm. Overseer Telnrai is showing signs of psychological strain. His neural patterns indicate increasing paranoia. Excellent, Sarah replied. Maintain current pressure. Let him see just enough to feed his fears, but nothing concrete enough to act upon. The resistance didn't need to fight the collective. They just needed to make them fight themselves. Every disappeared overseer, every mysterious malfunction, every perfectly performed act of submission added to a growing sense of wrongness that ate at the invader's confidence. An alert flashed across her main display. The collective's central eye was initiating another behavioral analysis of the human population. Sarah watched as the Resistance's carefully crafted data streams fed into its algorithms, a digital masterpiece of deception that showed the aliens exactly what they expected to see, while hiding the truth in plain sight. All hubs maintain performance protocols, she broadcast. Remember, every smile is a weapon. Every act of compliance is an act of defiance. We're not just fighting for Earth, we're teaching the galaxy a lesson about underestimating humanity. In chambers like this one, hidden beneath every major city on Earth, humans worked in perfect synchronization, not because they were controlled, but because they had chosen this path. Each person playing their part in a global performance of submission, while simultaneously dismantling the collective's control from within. The aliens had expected humanity to break under their superior force. Instead, humans had turned their own expectations against them, creating a resistance so subtle, so sophisticated, that the collective couldn't even comprehend it was happening. Sarah checked another display showing the psychological status of collective overseers worldwide. Fear, uncertainty, and paranoia were spreading through their ranks exactly as planned. Soon, the weight of their own assumptions would crush them. Because humanity hadn't just prepared for alien invasion, they had prepared for this specific type of invasion. One based on superiority, on the assumption that humans would either submit or resist in predictable ways. The collective had brought overwhelming force to Earth, expecting a simple conquest. What they got instead was a masterclass in human adaptability, a lesson in the danger of underestimating a species that had spent centuries imagining this very scenario. And they still hadn't seen the full extent of humanity's response. The reckoning. First speaker Nixera's crystalline form vibrated with barely contained distress as emergency reports flooded the collected strategic assembly. The holographic displays showing Earth's status were chaos of conflicting data. Everything was fine. Nothing was fine. Humans were completely subjugated. Humans were everywhere and nowhere. Our control is unraveling. Second speaker Zolrath's energy form pulsed erratically. The integration force is experiencing mass psychological breakdown. They're seeing humans in empty rooms, hearing voices in secure channels, doubting their own memories. The assembly watched as another oversight station went dark. No violence, no resistance, just absence. Collective officers were abandoning their posts, claiming their human assistants were not what they seemed. Some insisted they'd never had assistants at all, though records clearly showed otherwise. Or did they? Nixera accessed the records herself, and for a moment saw something impossible. Lines of code shifting, changing, rewriting themselves as she watched. She blinked her crystalline sensors, and everything appeared normal again. But the seed of doubt had been planted. "Show me Earth's submission data," she commanded. The holographic display erupted with streams of perfect compliance metrics. Humans working their assigned tasks with flawless efficiency. Production quotas met exactly. Behavior patterns matching predicted models with impossible precision. Too perfect, too exact. It's all fake, third speaker Miravan whispered, her insectoid mandibles trembling. Every report, every metric, every surveillance feed. They've been feeding us exactly what we expected to see. The realization hit the assembly like a quantum shockwave. Humans hadn't been submitting to the collective's control. They had been performing submission so perfectly that it blinded their occupiers to the truth. Every act of compliance had been choreographed. Every show of submission had been calculated. Every perfect metric had been crafted to lull the collective into a false sense of security. The integration force is compromised, Zal Rath announced, his energy form flickering with fear. They're reporting humans appearing and disappearing at will, technology failing for no reason, entire sections of their memories being questioned. Some are claiming their own bodies aren't real, that they've been changed. As if triggered by his words, the assembly chamber's lights fluctuated. The holographic displays glitched, and for a split second, every screen showed the same image, a human face, smiling. "What have they done?" Nixera demanded. "How have they done this?" The answer came not from the assembly, but from Earth itself. Every communication channel, every quantum link, every neural network suddenly carried the same message. Not in human languages, but in the collective's own complex data formats. "You gave us your technology, expecting us to be grateful. You showed us your systems, expecting us to be impressed. You revealed your psychology, expecting us to be intimidated. Instead, we learned. We adapted. We evolved." Across Earth, the careful illusion of compliance began to dissolve. Humans stopped their performance of submission, revealing that the oversight stations, the integration centers, the careful structure of control the collective had built, much of it had never existed at all. They had been watching simulations, believing in phantoms, trusting in data that humans had been carefully crafting since the first day of the invasion. "Impossible," Miravan chittered. "Their technological level. They couldn't have." Another message cut through all channels. "We didn't fight your technology with technology. We fought your assumptions with imagination." Every human child knows the story of the Trojan horse. Every human adult has imagined how to resist an alien invasion. We've been preparing for this moment not with weapons, but with stories, with games, with dreams of what we would do if beings like you ever came to our world. The assembly watched in horror as their careful plans collapsed. Integration officers were refusing to trust their own senses. Command structures were breaking down as no one could be sure what was real and what was human manipulation. The perfect compliance metrics that had blinded them to the truth now became a source of terror. How long had humans been controlling what they saw? What else had they been made to believe? Nixera felt her crystalline form resonating with a new frequency, respect. Because humanity hadn't just resisted, they had turned the entire invasion into a lesson about the danger of underestimating a species that had spent its entire existence imagining ways to overcome superior forces. The collective had brought overwhelming power to Earth, expecting either submission or primitive resistance. Instead, they got a masterclass in human adaptability, a demonstration of warfare so subtle that their own assumptions became their greatest weakness. As the assembly watched their control of Earth disintegrate, a final message came through. "You came to uplift us, to give us the stars. But we didn't need your permission to reach for them. We didn't need your technology to overcome you. We just needed you to believe you had won, right up until the moment you realized you had already lost. The New Dawn. 1 year after the Collective's failed occupation of Earth, first speaker Nyx Era stood before a very different strategic assembly. Her crystalline form had been modified, simplified, a conscious choice to display humility learned at great cost. The vast chamber, once a symbol of absolute power, now held representatives not just from the Collective's member species, but from Earth as well. Dr. Sarah Chen, now Earth's official representative to the galactic community, stood at the central podium. Her presence was both a reminder of the Collective's greatest failure and, surprisingly, the key to its survival. The integration of Earth proceeded exactly as planned. She addressed the assembly, a hint of irony in her voice. Just not in the way you intended. Humanity has integrated into the galactic community, not as subjects, but as equals. Not through submission, but through demonstration of our capabilities. The holographic displays showed the changes of the past year. The Collective, shaken to its foundation by the revelation of how completely humanity had outmaneuvered them, had been forced to evolve. The rigid hierarchy that had governed galactic civilization for millennia had been replaced by something more flexible, more adaptive. We could have destroyed your invasion force, Sarah continued. We could have turned your own weapons against you, used your technology to strike at the heart of your civilization. Instead, we chose to teach you a lesson about the danger of assumptions, about the power of understanding your opponent's psychology. Nyx Era stepped forward, her crystalline form resonating with the frequencies of formal acknowledgement. And we have learned. The Collective survived not because of our power, but because of humanity's choice to show mercy, to turn enemies into allies. The assembly watched as new data streamed across the displays, joint human collective projects, technological exchanges, cultural initiatives. Humanity had not hoarded their unique insights and capabilities. Instead, they had shared them, helping the Collective's member species understand how to think beyond their technological advantages. Your invasion gave us access to advanced technology, Sarah explained. But our victory came from something else. Our ability to imagine, to adapt, to turn stories into strategies. Every human child who ever dreamed about aliens, every artist who created tales of invasion, every game designer who imagined how to resist superior forces, they were all preparing us for this moment. The displays showed clips from Earth's vast library of science fiction, from its countless games and simulations dealing with alien contact. The Collective's members watched with new understanding. What they had dismissed as primitive entertainment had been a vast training program, preparing humanity for exactly this type of conflict. We did not just defeat your invasion, Sarah continued. We showed you a new way of thinking. Your technology is impressive, but imagination, creativity, adaptability, these are the true forces that shape the future. Zolrath, his energy form now stable and controlled, spoke next. The humans have taught us that true strength lies not in superior firepower or advanced technology, but in the ability to understand and outthink your opponent. Their victory was not won with weapons, but with ideas. The assembly chamber hummed with agreement. The Collective had been transformed. Its member species were learning to value creativity alongside technology, to understand that progress came not just from power, but from the ability to imagine new possibilities. Earth remains independent, Nyx Era announced, but not isolated. They have earned their place among the stars not through our uplift, but through their own ingenuity. And we are stronger for having them as allies rather than subjects. The holographic displays showed Earth's current status, a world rapidly advancing, combining human creativity with collective technology in ways that neither side had imagined possible. But more importantly, it showed something else. A galactic civilization learning to evolve, to adapt, to imagine new ways of existence. The stars were always our destiny, Sarah concluded, not because you chose to give them to us, but because we never stopped reaching for them. You came to teach us about the galaxy, but in the end, we taught you something far more valuable. Never underestimate a species that has spent its entire existence dreaming about the impossible. As the assembly concluded, Nick Serra approached Sarah privately. Your victory changed us, the crystalline being admitted, but not through force or fear. You showed us a different way to see the universe. Sarah smiled. That's humanity's true gift to the galaxy. Not our technology, not our strategies, but our ability to imagine what could be, and then make it real. The collective had come to Earth expecting to find a primitive species in need of guidance. Instead, they found teachers who showed them that true advancement comes not from superior force, but from the power of imagination, creativity, and the ability to see beyond the obvious. And in that lesson, both humanity and the collective found something greater than victory. They found a new way forward among the stars.